Everyone, it's Brian with CADRE here, and we're going to take a little bit before we get started just to hang out with everybody. But today, what we're doing is we are looking at first-time home buyers in general, but especially first-time because they've got more to go over, more to learn. But if you're a second-time home buyer, still third time, 12th time, whatever, it's all still good stuff. And we're going to go over the process and just generally everything you need to know, especially with how crazy the market is right now and my general advice for buyers. We are trying a new program, as you can probably see here. Seems like the green screen's a little funky. Let me know what you see on your side. But we're going to hang out here for just a few minutes, and then we're going to get right into it. If you have any questions in the meantime, please let me know. Feel free to chat, put messages down below, and it's just generally going to be every single Sunday around 6. We're going to just kind of have a hangout and kind of help with whatever questions or issues or anything else that people are seeing or doing or experiencing here in real estate. So we'll get started here right about 6:05. Awkward. Learning how the buttons work. Give it another couple minutes. Like I said, 6:05, we'll get started. Well, I thought that'd be a fun little graphic thing, but turns out it only lasts a minute. You figure I'd make those longer. But it's time. So let's talk about buying your first home. So when you're buying, the number one thing that everyone asks about is how much is it going to cost? Are there any grants? Are there any benefits? All that kind of fun stuff. So in terms of how much it costs, it's going to vary tremendously based on your situation. So there's a lot of factors in buying a home. It's not just like it's a $600,000 home, it's always going to cost this. There's going to be HOAs, insurance, uh, probably mortgage insurance, and a bunch of other things are going to vary depending on your exact purchase price, your community, what's your property tax. So the amount that you're going to owe is going to vary from calculator to calculator and more or less going to vary based on your situation. Even a lot of times your lender won't really know what exact price you're going to be paying every single month, at least at least until they really dig into your finances and know the exact house. So in buying a home, you have to be a little bit flexible. You want to kind of keep a maximum price in mind and a ballpark in mind, but there's going to be some changes. But let's try and show you what realistically you can kind of use yourself before you talk to a lender in terms of figuring out a price. So let's look at this condo, see if this is working. Is this working for us? It's working for us. Let's check out this condo in Newbury Park here. We're looking at 2068 Shoemaker Lane in Thousand Oaks. Now, when you scroll through Zillow, there's going to be all kinds of stuff like up here, they're going to have like 2.5% buyer's fee, price per square foot, HOA fees $495, all kinds of stuff that you don't necessarily need. But what you're going to want to do is up here, it's the easiest part, is to scroll to the monthly cost. And when we get to monthly cost, a lot of time they're going to have some really weird numbers here, like principal interest, and like they're going to have like 20% down. So you need to think about what your down payment is. You don't just look at this monthly price. You want to look at your specific situation for what your specific down payment is and what your specific situation is. So right now, interest rates are around 6.5. Again, if your credit's really good, might be a little lower. If your credit's really bad, might be a little worse. But you want to kind of look at, usually 3.5% is a first-time home buyer grant. If you don't have that and you're still thinking about buying, there's others to help get that down. We can also help out with closing costs, other things to get it even lower. So don't let that mess you up too much. But as a general ballpark, we're going to want to do around 3.5% down, around 6% interest rate. And one of the funny things here is it's $495 a month for the HOA fee, but I think up here it didn't pull right? Because it was, where'd it go? Oh, it's $495 HOA fee. So for the $600,000 house, if you're doing 3.5% down, you are looking at around $5,300. And again, this is going to vary a lot based on your personal situation. Maybe your mortgage insurance is a little less. Maybe your property tax is a little different. Maybe your home insurance, you got a better deal. Your interest rate is better or your down payment is bigger. So this is why we can't give you an exact amount. And I know it's really frustrating as a first-time buyer or an anytime buyer when you're trying to buy a home and even the lender all the time won't know your exact payment, but pretty close what it will be. So these calculators aren't perfect. You'll notice if you use like Realtor.com or other websites, they will vary a bunch. That's mostly because they have different guesses for what your mortgage insurance is or what your property tax is or things similar. So you can look at several different websites. I found that Zillow seems to be closer, but still not perfect. Again, depends on you. And I know what you're going to say. Brian, the down payment is insane. Or just that monthly payment is insane. Well, let's talk about that. So for everybody, there is going to be, let me see, there we go, stop sign. So for everybody, there's going to be all kinds of different grants and programs and benefits and things that you can get for yourself. So even though that price does possibly look too high, there's going to be a lot of programs, especially for first-time buyers. Now, right now, the 2022 programs have more or less all expired, and the 2023 programs haven't kicked in yet. They usually kick in the next 30 to 60 days, most years, but it's a government program, and we don't know for sure when they will become available. But if it was me, I would wait for those grants. For example, last year, I believe that we had a grant that would give you roughly $50,000 off the purchase of a home if you use the grant, did a little bit more paperwork. To me, totally worth it. So we need to see what exactly our programs are going to be for 2023. We don't know yet, But again, if you're really worried about that price and it feels high, don't let it scare you off too much. Now, the best places you can look for where these grants are and what are available are going to be Cal HFA. Let me see if I can bring it up here. You can keep an eye on this website, Cal HFA. This is where a lot of the grants pop up at. And there's also going to be a lot of grants locally as well, possibly. I could be mistaken, but I think still a program for adding ADUs on properties. But I check with your lender. The number one way to figure out all of this information is going to be with your lender, not with me. I just help you spend the money. I don't know the money personally. So when it comes to dealing with a lot of these situations, your lender is going to give you exact answers and exact numbers, at least better than I can. And so, again, don't get too discouraged. And if you are looking at properties, again, let's say we're looking back over at this guy over here. And you're like, man, this is just way too expensive. Again, I get you. There are a lot of programs, not just for first-time buyers or buyers in general. There's also low income and a ton, 55 plus, veteran. There are tons and tons of programs. I believe they even have some for first responders, which includes firefighters, basically anyone in the medical field. So depending on what industry you're in, you could have access to a ton of extra resources that that doesn't show up on this Zillow price, right? Because let's be real, 5,300 bucks for this for a 2-bed 3-bath. I mean, you can rent something for around $3,000 is probably pretty similar, right? So that feels high. So with this, you kind of want to have either a really big down payment or you want to have another program really helping bring it down. So on the subject of down payments, a lot of people talk about 20% down. So the trick with a 20% down is that you have mortgage insurance, right? So your mortgage insurance is required usually when you are putting 20% or less down. So for a lot of people, the numbers here don't necessarily make sense, especially with interest rates that are really high, unless they have 20% down or unless they have a special grant or other program. But keep in mind, even if you're doing 3.5% down, even though this is more money, every single month your payment is going towards your equity. So as you make those payments, they're not going to just disappear. When you pay rent, the money just flies out the window. It goes away, right? When you pay your mortgage, it's towards your property. So over time, as the property increases in value and as you make payments, you're paying down your loan. And as the property increases in value, you'll have more money in your property. So for a lot of people, they are under the mindset that you should only put 20% down, because if you do change this to 20% instead of 3.5%, it makes a really big difference in this number. It bumps us all the way down to $4,100 because we get rid of the mortgage insurance on top of having a lower loan balance. But you've got to keep in mind that prices keep going up, right? I mean, we're coming down a little bit right now, but not a tremendous amount, at least compared to how much you pay for rent. And that $30,000, $40,000 that you're paying for rent is just gone. If you had that $30,000, $40,000, even though your payment's a little bit higher on your personal property, then a lot of times you're better off. So if you have the choice, for most people, you want to do 20% down. But if you don't have 20% down, you're still probably better off putting, in this case, let's go back to, what was it, 3.5%? 3.5. You're better off spending you $5,200 a month compared to spending $3,000 a month on your rent and then trying to save $2,000 a month for your down payment. So once you got the money, the next thing you want to do is start looking at lenders. So when you're shopping for lenders or realtors, in this case, I'm going to kind of put them in the same boat. You should be looking for a realtor or a lender. There's going to be a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation here. Should you find a lender first or should you find a realtor first? I'm actually going to tab this out to make it easier to see. So should you find a realtor first or should you find a lender first? Well, really, you're going to need both, and you should really be looking for both. Now, if you know a lender or you know a realtor that you have a good relationship with, ask them who they like to work with. Usually, the person they like to work with is for a good reason. They usually do a good job, they work together well. But if you have a realtor and lender that you both like and they've never met, nothing wrong with having them work together either. So once you pick one, though, at least one, you should start asking them who they like, and you should start putting together your team. Because once you have escrow going, it's going to be really, really hard to like go back and fix stuff. So you really want to figure out who your lender is, what kind of loan you want to get, and the programs before you're under contract. And you really want to pick your realtor before you start looking at homes. Because the worst thing in the world you can do is push the Zillow button and then go and look at a home. And now you're stuck with this realtor that you really hate. Or write an offer and get under contract and now say, hey, I need to redo my financing because I want to use a different lender. Both of those situations make the whole process really, really messy. So we want to try to go into the process as prepared as we can with lenders and realtors and everything else. And your realtor or your lender will be able to help you figure out who are good people to work with and get that all done early. But please, 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 I can't emphasize this enough. You don't want to look at houses without having a good realtor, and you don't want to write offers without having your lender situation figured out. Last year, I had about 3 different deals where, as soon as we were under contract, my client tried switching lenders, and it was a really big gamble and really made a mess out of stuff. And, thank goodness nothing bad happened, but it really opened us up to a lot of potential problems. So doing it early is a really big deal. So once you got your basics set up, you kind of sort of know what you're looking for. You know you're kind of looking for this corner of the world. You know you're kind of looking for a certain price range. Or at least you want to be around a certain school. Whatever your parameters are, you want to give it to your realtor. And here's the thing that I come across a lot as a real estate agent is we can only search for certain things. We cannot search for everything. And we don't want to miss the homes that you're looking for. So let me show you this. We're going to go into the actual MLS and show you what our home search looks like. And it's actually really similar to Zillow. It's just more up to date. So if I share this guy, is it this one? Residential, this one. Share. I think that should be the right one. Yeah. So when we're sharing this, we get to kind of see all the homes up for sale in Ventura County or across California, wherever we want to look, right? And we have categories we can look for: number of beds, number of baths, do they have a pool, days on MLS, all that kind of fun stuff. A lot of the time when I come across buyers, they'll say things like, I really need an open concept, which is okay, and I'll help look for it. But we can't put that into the computer system, right? Like open concept isn't really a category. We can look for, certain square footage or certain parts of town. So when you're putting in a search, you want to keep in mind that you're looking more for, at least for your realtor search parameters, specifically like bed counts, bath counts, square footage, size of the lot, certain communities, certain towns, and the more specific you can be with that, the better. And when it comes to looking for open floor plan or modern or something like that, definitely let us know. But just understand that it's not going to necessarily work or come up that way on the search. And typically we want to keep our search more broad rather than more narrow, because we would rather have you get listings popping up on your feed that you don't want than have you miss listings that you do want. So once we're looking, your realtor will then be sending you stuff over and saying, hey, do you want to look at any of these? Once you find one that you like, you tell your realtor, yes, I'd love to see this property. And you go and do the showing. Now, with me personally, as a realtor, I love to ask my clients how they want the showing done. Do you prefer me to just keep my mouth shut, let you walk through and enjoy the home? Do you prefer to make it a whole show? And there's going to be kind of your relationship and your expectations with your buyer agent on what you want done. Along with a lot of those expectations, most good agents, not all agents, but most good agents will ask you to sign a buyer agency form. This buyer agency form is essentially going to be It's a contract. It's an agreement that shows how your agent gets paid, what your expectations from them is, what their expectations of you are, and just generally makes the relationship really clear. A lot of buyers I've noticed really try to avoid the buyer agency agreement. And while you can do that, um, I've found that the same people that avoid getting the buyer agency agreement signed also tend to be really upset when they find out something that the buyer agency protects. So, both for you and for your realtor, I encourage you to get that done. But it's also not necessary, and not every agent needs it. Now, super common questions at this point. Some people ask, hey, Brian, why do I need an agent? Why can't I just go to houses myself and work with a listing agent? Well, a really common situation with that is that the listing agent is offered usually a certain percent commission, um, usually between 4 and 6. Sometimes it varies, but they're offered a total between 4 and 6% commission, and usually that's split for the buyer's agent and for the seller's agent. So while you can sometimes get a more motivated seller's agent to help you, and sometimes that can be beneficial, the problem is that once you're in contract, you don't really have an agent. You have someone doing both sides. And that can be really expensive because you no longer have representation, you no longer have a guide taking you through the process. So if you're not 100% confident in your home buying experience that you can do it yourself, I really don't recommend doing dual agency. It costs you nothing extra to have your own representation, and it can cost you a lot if there's mistakes. So I really recommend you go with your own agent, and I also really recommend that you don't work with a managing broker. I know that a lot of people want to go with the big boss at the brokerage, but one of the tricks is if your agent's not doing a good job, you can reach out to their managing broker and make sure that you're taken care of. But if you're already working with the managing broker, you have nowhere to talk up to make sure that the problems are fixed if they pop up. And again, with good agents, they shouldn't pop up, but it's better to have extra layers of protection if you can help it. So once you find a home, let's say this one right here on, or that one you were looking at in Shoemaker, you're going to go into escrow. Escrow is a super scary word, right? Before I got into real estate, I'm like, oh man, people are in escrow. That's a big deal. All escrow is it's a due diligence period. Actually, I'm gonna step back. Before you get the house, you're gonna need to offer on it. When you write your offer, again, you're gonna want to let your realtor know everything about what you want in your offer. And so there needs to be a significant amount of collaboration between you, your realtor, and your lender, because your lender might have certain requirements or expectations, and you're going to need some paperwork from the lender. You're going to have certain expectations, like maybe you really want the fridge or you don't. But either way, you're going to need to have a lot of teamwork here when writing, so that you're writing an offer that's appropriate, that helps meet all of your needs, because no one contract is just cookie cutter and good for everyone. And you're going to want to make sure that your offer has everything you want in it, down to the finest detail. So you're going to want to read over, not necessarily the whole contract, but at least all the fillable parts of the contract. I know that a lot of my clients, especially, have noticed, because it's online, it's like an e-sign, they will just click all the way through. Do yourself a favor, stop, and you don't have to read all the words, but at least read the parts that are fillable. And also, when you're offering, you're going to want to have your agent talk with the other agent, and you want to do some homework. You want to make sure that your offer is fair, even if the seller disagrees with what you believe is fair. So what you should have your realtor do is have them write what's called a CMA, market analysis, basically looking at the home you're looking at buying, what they think it's worth, what they think you should offer. They should reach out to the other agent, see if there's any other offers, see if we're in a bidding war. And a lot of those details will help you come up with a really good plan to have a really strong offer that you feel confident in and don't feel like you're getting taken advantage of. Hopefully, your offer gets accepted. And if it is accepted, then we enter escrow, back to where we were before, right? So escrow, again, before I was a realtor, I was like, oh my gosh, escrow is so scary. Everyone always talks about how stressful it is and how awful it is. But really what escrow is it is the buyer's opportunity to make sure that everything about the deal is what they want. It's your due diligence period. So as a buyer, if you had cash, you could just offer cash and buy the house, no escrow, take it right away, right? But that would be a really crummy deal. What you really want is time to inspect the property, make sure that your loan will work, and make sure the value of the home is worth it. So there can be a ton of contingencies when you're offering. But the three main ones, and the contingency are the things that say, I will buy the house if. The three main contingencies are going to be the inspection. So I will buy the home if it's in good shape after an inspector goes through it. Your appraisal, which is I will buy the home if the bank appraises the home at least the value that we offered, if not higher. And also the loan contingency, which says I will buy the home if I can get the money from the bank, right? Now, when you're under contract, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to offer an earnest money deposit. This is a good faith deposit that says that, if something goes weird out of bad faith, you're going to forfeit that money. So your contingencies protect that money. We have a lot of situations where sellers especially will want a lot more than the deposit after the deal, or they will have all kinds of weird drama. When you're buying a home, the only thing that you are risking, if for some reason you don't buy the home, is going to be your deposit. There's not going to be really, usually, an opportunity for someone to sue you and go for extra money aside from your deposit. So as the seller, they want that deposit to be as big as they can. And as the buyer, you want as many good contingencies to protect that money in case something goes funny and you walk away. So let's say, for example, you inspect the home and you find out that it's a dump and you had no idea it was so beat up when you wrote your offer. As long as you have your financing contingency, you will lose your inspection money. That's going to go away. Any other money that you spent in terms of inspections and generally so far in escrow is going to go away, but you can still get your deposit back. As a seller, if for some reason the buyer just disappears or ignores how long the deal is supposed to take or does something else funny, there is a chance you might be able to keep the deposit, and that can kind of help you out and make things square if you were behind because of something the buyer did. But for the most part, it's still very hard to get the deposit unless there is really a crazy case of negligence. So as the buyer, even though you're making this deposit, it is going to count towards your closing costs, and you're most likely going to get it back. You're going to be very unlikely to lose that money unless you or your agent are doing something very lazy or very weird. So once you go through all of these steps, and there's going to be a lot of inspections. For example, when you're inspecting a home, you're not just doing the general inspection. I would highly recommend you get a sewer scope and take a look at all the sewers. One of the most expensive and most common things you're going to have go wrong is that there are roots in your plumbing, right? And your realtor should be able to look at your home, look at the area, identify what inspections you're going to need done, right? And identify what contingencies you want done. But once you take a look at everything, you're usually then going to send a request for repairs. So you're going to go to the seller and you're going to say, hey, we like the house. The HVAC is shot. We need a credit in order to make this happen. And you're going to bounce back and forth. Usually the request for repairs is your best chance to get a better deal. So you want to use, again, best practices, a good negotiator to really help you get as best a deal as you can buying this new home. Once the inspections are all completely done, and once the inspections are done, it tends to be kind of easy from there. We're going to wait for the appraisal. The appraiser's going to go by, and you're not even going to know that the appraiser is going through, and they're going to say whether it passed or failed. If it fails, it's a big pain in the butt, but it hasn't failed on me in the last probably 2 years. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then the loans are going to get all done by the lender. There's going to be a tremendous amount of paperwork from all the different parties, from escrow and title and your lender and your realtor, just checking off that you understand the quality of the property and you understand the loan and giving all your documents. It's a lot, but keep in mind that once it's done and you're off the hook, right? So you have to be a little bit patient and you have to go through the process of getting all the paperwork done. Usually it's just a lot of clicking and getting the lender any other financial documents that you need. And once that's all done, you're in the clear. So once you get all of the contingencies taken care of, you're going to have a closing date. Typically, that day at around 5 p.m., you will get the clear to close from title and escrow. They have to send some stuff to the city that sends it back. Once you have the clear to close and everything is closed and finalized, you can get the keys, and congratulations, the home is yours. So the biggest things you want to kind of look out for out here is going to be to make sure that you're finding good deals, because we're really, really competitive, and making sure that, with as crazy as the market is, you're keeping an eye on interest rates. Right now, interest rates have been going absolutely haywire. They went from like 2% to like 7% in like 6 months. That has a huge impact on your payments. So as you're keeping an eye on the market and you're thinking about buying, make sure you're checking out our monthly market updates, because that's going to be a really big indicator for generally how the market is doing and everything you need to keep an eye on and do in your home buying process. And if I were you and a home buyer right now, I'd probably sit on hands a little bit. I'd probably wait around for a minute, and I would wait for those new home buyer grants, or see what grants in general are coming out, but especially home buyer grants for 2023. Again, they should be out any minute. So if you're looking, I would start getting all of your ducks in a row now. Figure out your lender, figure out your realtor, figure out kind of where you want to be, and then kind of hang tight. And as soon as those grants pop out, take advantage of that free money. Because at least to me, in my opinion, that's going to be the biggest difference right now with the crazy interest rates between like pulling the trigger and buying now and kind of getting a crummy deal. Those grants are incredible. And also, really common thing everyone's looking at is prices going down. Don't get me wrong, prices are going down, especially on low, more entry level homes. But overall, prices have really only fallen maybe $30,000 on a $600,000 home. And I know what your initial reaction is going to be. Wow, I would love $30,000, right? But if we take a look back at our old friend here on Shoemaker, if we were to take this price right now at 5,300, this same neighborhood not that long ago used to be around $650,000. So that changes the price from 5,300, come on, to 5,600. So while it's totally worth, it's nice to save $300 a month. I'm not going to argue with that at all. You really want to keep in mind that as prices are moving, trying to time the market really isn't worth it, because even if you save, in this case, $50,000, you're really only saving a couple $100 a month. And meanwhile, if the interest rates change dramatically, like for example, for example, when these were $650,000, the interest rate was like 3%, give or take, and that makes it $4,200. So as a first-time buyer, as you're looking, it's going to be way more important to keep an eye on interest rates than it's going to be to keep an eye on the price. The interest rates being low are a huge deal. And again, I know another argument people are going to make is, what about refinancing later and getting a lower rate? If you don't know what that is, it means that for example, if you had a loan at 7%, if you wait a while and interest rates drop, sometimes you can redo the loan. You pay off your old loan and get a new loan, and you can lower the interest rates. You have to pay a little bit of money for the for called points. It's just a certain percentage of the home value, usually 1 or 2%, and then you can get the lower rate. The problem is we don't know how much lower rates are going to get. And historically, I mean, even in 18 and 19, I believe our rates were closer to 4.5. So we're really not, or at least we're probably not going to see rates fall down to 2 or 3% again. They might one day fall down, 2%. And this is all just speculation from, our 6 to around 4.5, 5. So there is room for it to go down, but not a lot of room. So I wouldn't totally bank your purchase timing on waiting for the market to be the lowest price. I would focus way, way more on making sure that it is at the lowest interest rate that you can possibly get. And again, taking advantage of those grants. I think those are a big deal. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them down below. Or if you have anything specific you want to see or want us to do, again, put it in the comments, and I'd love to help you guys out. But for now, that is about the whole home buyer process. And if you have any questions, happy to catch you guys on the next live, or catch you, or you can call, text, whatever, anytime. You can see is it this way? Oh, wait, hold on. Let's get this down. You can see the QVC code up here to scan, or you go to callcastre.com, reach out to me anytime. I try to be accessible and make sure I get to everyone. So, if you have any personal questions or questions about your situation, we've got tons of folks standing by. The market's acting kind of weird, so business is a little bit slow right now. But, if you need anything personally, there's a lot of resources right now for you. I remember back when we were at the peak of the market, everything was going absolutely crazy. Getting appraisers out, getting inspectors, getting lenders to give people time of day. Oh my gosh, it was so challenging. But now that stuff's gotten kind of slower, it's a lot easier to get personalized service. There's less competition. So we're seeing a lot of more favorable conditions for buyers than we've seen in the last 2 years. So I think that if you are considering buying, 2023 might be the year. Only time will tell. It's all guessing, right? No one really knows. But right now, if it were me, and it kind of is actually, if you don't know, I'm actually looking at buying a home right now. I'm thinking this is the year. So anyways, guys, if you need anything else, you know what to do. Call Castro, and I will catch you guys next time.